So I was thinking, I know, shocker, is the M2 vocal technique really magical? On a scale of 1 to 10, does it solve everything? Is it a quick fix or a long-term solution? Which one do you think? Well, we'll be talking about that. But first we have to talk about what the hell the M2 vocal technique is. And it's simply taking your M2 laryngeal mechanism, usually poorly called falsetto, and making it sound like chest voice. It's not super common, not that one can certainly know what's going on inside the larynx of rock singers. Oh, baby! Oh, baby! But it is for sure not the standard among male vocalists. The only 3 singers, without getting into opera, that I can say for a fact that only use this technique, not that I coached them, in fact they coached me actually on YouTube, of course. Chris Cornell, Chester Bennington, Mark Martel, and they all share a common denominator of being stupid consistent, especially when you compare them to any rock singer who pushes their M1 laryngeal mechanism, usually called chest voice. So if the discussion hypothetically ended here, we could call this technique a 10 out of 10 in terms of magicalness, right? But it doesn't, because it's both a quick fix in the sense that you can get results in 2 days. That is why I shamelessly call my second course Instant Mixed Voice. It's not actually like a marketing scheme, it's actually what I have seen to happen. It's more like a long-term commitment. You have to change your entire technique in this direction, otherwise it won't make sense. All the parts of your voice need to be cooperating in that direction for it to work the best. The 2 laryngeal mechanisms are like 2 sides of the same coin, and even though they can't touch, you need to work in equal amounts on both. Otherwise your voice, which for the listener will be just one voice, timbre wise, won't sound unified. Sure, behind the scenes, you know that scientifically it is 2 voices, but the end product is just one. And some singers in the beginning who are reluctant to change to this technique, they think they want this technique as a backup for when their M1 or their chest voice isn't working as well, then they'll switch to this technique. I love that concept. If that's what motivates you to learn it, you should do it because it is very safe. But I do struggle to imagine it, because if you're pushing M1 that high, that is a very intense vocal technique, and this is the opposite in the end. You have to work with a lot of air, you will get very loud. It is intense in an air way, but it's not intense in a throat way at all. And the end product, most of the times, unless you're singing opera, is not intense either. So I don't think that works in practice. I've never seen it happen or come to fruition. Only is like a little plan, and I love it though, I have to say. So even though it is a quick fix in a sense, you can get insanely quick results, I couldn't say it quickly fixes everything. In fact, you need to start changing everything too, because you'll get the note that sounds good in M2 really quickly, and that will for sure motivate you to start looking for ways to integrate that note into different songs, or make that isolated M2 note sound like it's a part of your range. You know, of course it is ultimately, but you know what I mean. You start making it so the listeners could never tell, like, oh, like they switched, like that's a different voice. I think it's like, no, it's the same voice. So of course, without the first very quick result, you couldn't even be capable of thinking about the long-term. But the long-term thing is not quick, and it's a song by song process almost. Eventually it stops being one once you've tackled the same notes and the same like vowels across many songs. It's like, you know, that does the work and you're kind of done. Of course, you always have to see each song, but because you already have faith that you've hit the note previously in a similar configuration, it's like, you know, you can do it, and you do it most of the times, unless there's something like super weird. So it's a quick fix in 2 days, you blah blah blah, you get it. But it would be crazy to think you will be singing entirely with that technique, entirely in all your range with that technique, or any song in just 2 days. That's just crazy. Once the magic fades off of how quick it can give results, then I just think it's like most other vocal techniques, you know, like they need work and you need to sing a lot with them. yada yada yada. The biggest thing is actually just for your muscle memory to remember how to do it on autopilot, because you just want to be singing and not thinking about the M2 laryngeal mechanism, obviously. But as everything in life, if you find something that is motivating you, it's like, oh, now I can do this note in this song that I couldn't do before. I just have to do the switching. Oh, so cool. It sounds chesty. Then obviously all of this doesn't feel like work. I'm just pointing to the fact that it won't take 2 days. 2 days is just the first results. Then the last factor that I can think about is the can everyone do it factor. And in this factor, I just realized this technique is very magical, actually, because it's scientific, and science found that laryngeal mechanisms don't differ that much in range across sexes. So why could the singing framework that I created distinguish among sexes? That isn't English anymore, right? So much so it doesn't distinguish among sexes that obviously it can't distinguish between or amongst baritones, basses, tenors. Like, if it doesn't distinguish between a male and a female, it won't distinguish between 2 males, which like with almost the same vocal fold length. So I got this question today, and it's very interesting. It's like the can anyone do it question. And of course the answer is yes, because I am a baritone in theory, according to blah blah blah, all the opera teachers that I've had.
The human normal voice is the baritone voice.
I trained a bass singer who didn't finish the entire thing, but he got some pretty quick results in M2 as well. You have to think about it super objectively, and it's the only different thing that a female singer does is they switch higher up the scale and work on their M1 and their M2 proportionally to their switch. So a singer who switches lower, like a bass or a baritone, they work in the same way, proportionally lower to their switch. But it is literally the same thing. You just like learn to work with your voice, and it's gifts, not to call them limitations anymore. So on a scale of 1 to 10, let's set the polar opposite. What would be a 1 out of 10 vocal technique? Whatever the pushy guy was doing, maybe the lizard technique, perhaps. I would say this is like an 8. I don't think you can get that much more magical in something that obviously is going to take some time. Those are all my thoughts. If you're interested in the technique named after the laryngeal mechanism M2, first a scientific framework, now an entire method available for a very cheap price that won't last very long, if I may. I keep learning to value my services higher as I gain faith, and I see students saying like, holy shit, that worked in 2 days. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna raise the price again, because, well, it's just really good. So hurry or whatever, right? Okay, I'll see you soon.